Alright, today is January 23rd, so I'm late to this, but it's still January, so I think it still counts. So this is what I want to see out of public transit, out of the three that I have here as examples for 2025. Two things. One, I'm getting over a cold, so I might stop periodically, might be some jump cuts. And two, this is my opinion. I am not an expert in any of this. I do not claim to be an expert. This is just an opinion. Now, let's start with the big and work our way down to the smallest. So, Amtrak. Uh, really, there's nothing I can say about this other than just do your projects, I guess. I'm not a fan of. Well, I try not to start an anime, not finish it, and start another anime. I try to complete things before I start new projects. And this is why I said I'm not an expert in any of this. I know different projects have different budgets. I know it's state funded and blah blah blah, politics, blah blah blah, bureaucrats, blah blah blah. So, if you want to start something new, make sure what you have is working properly. You want to start a new service, make sure what you have is working. That's all I can say for Amtrak. For the MBTA, basically the same thing. We don't know where the east-west Boston to Springfield service is and all this bureaucrat nonsense. I don't think it's going to happen in 2025. But to that end, you have South Coast Rail starting up soon. You have the bus redesign project. You have bus garages being rebuilt, redone, rehabbed. Stop starting new projects when you want to do other projects. We're still waiting on the Red Line cars. We got Green Line Type 10 coming in a few years. What I want personally is at least a year-round, not all-day trip, but at least 2 trips maybe down to the Cape Cod. Because let's face it, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday trips for Cape Cod during the summer, that's for the suits in Boston, you know that. The average McDonald's employee ain't doing that because they work Sunday. So it's not really fair to those guys it's not fair that the suits get to go during the weekends because they usually have the weekends off. But the average person can't do that. So I would like to see that come. Finish what you have before you start new projects. And that's that for that. The last one, 2 points. One, if someone from the MBTA Gifts ever sees this video, I doubt you ever will, but if you do, talk to the regional transit authorities and try to get merch like LRTA and WRTA, blah blah blah, all of them, bat. Because I would love a bat hat. When I was younger, one of the drivers gave me a hat with a trolley bus on it, and I lost that hat. So I had to take a little coffin break there. So I would love to get that hat back, if that design even exists still. I think I was 4 or 5 when it happened. I forget how I lost it. I remember why I got that hat. It's because I was being a brat. You know, it was a trolley bus. I wanted to ride the trolley bus over the RTS buses because it's what we had at the time. But the trolley bus was not on the route that we needed. So I'd love to get that hat back. And number two, and this is where the foamers have to help me explain this to me. So I was using Dial-A-Bat last year. I used it January to September 2024. And I would schedule trips. The secretaries would say I would be all set. And the day for the trips would come, and they would tell me I was not on the schedule. It made me late to work multiple times. And I can ask a friend about this because he knows about this. It was in front of him. I had a trip scheduled to go home from work at 4:30. The driver came at 12:30, and I had to yell at the secretary because she thought I was ready to go now. It was my 15-minute lunch break. And my friend was there, and I had her on speakerphone, and he heard it. I had to yell at her, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4:30. I want to go home at 4:30, not now, not 12:30, not 1:30. So why in 2024 do we still have this what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Archaic, I think. System of the elderly and disabled, who are some of the poorest and weakest people in this country, where they have to think about how they want to go to Walmart to get groceries, the medicine, well, in my case, go to work. And when I complained and I shut down my Dial-A-Bat account, the secretary at the bus station, well, why don't you tell them? Why don't you set it up as a subscription thing? Because my schedule at work changes all the time. I can't do the subscription. I have to get my schedule from work and have to tell Dial-A-Bat when to come and get me. And I can't trust Dial-A-Bat to come and get me because I don't trust the secretaries. You tell me one thing, the day the trip comes, and the bus doesn't show up, I'm not on the schedule. Is it human error or is it machine error? I don't know. It happened multiple times. Which brings us to the MBTA. The MBTA ride service is, to my knowledge, able to be scheduled online, which I will be applying for a separate reason. Which, to that end, I'm not asking for anyone to lose their jobs at Dial-A-Bat. What I am asking for is the ability to book these trips online so I know I'm doing it right. There's less error. Another coughing fit. So the ride can be booked online, like a Domino's pizza, essentially. So I know that I booked it right. I know I did everything right on my end. There's less of an error. Because Dial-A-Bat can easily come back and say, well, you didn't say it right. It's your fault. Even though I know I said things right, because it's happened multiple times. And it was being recorded on their end. And two, with the ride, they have a separate service called the Ride Flex, which is with Uber and Lyft, where, if I'm reading the website correctly, I, the passenger, pay $3 out of a $10 total trip, plus the tip to the driver. And I'm not 100% sure about this one, but if I was, example would be I would be in a wheelchair, they could send a ride bus, not an Uber or a Lyft. I'm not 100% sure about that. So I don't see why we are still using this call a day in advance to go food shopping, to go to work, to go to blah 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 with paratransit services in 2025. And to that end, BAT has the microtransit service Rockland Flux, which when you pay for it online, it's labeled as dial-bat on your bank statement. So, and also, I've used that service before. Dial-bat drivers who drove me via dial-bat also drove me on the Flux service. So why can't dial-bat adjust to the or adopt, whatever, the microtransit service? Keep people in the office for those individuals that can't use a smartphone. I can use a smartphone just fine. I can use a website. I just need to go to and from work. I've had to turn down my manager asking me to stay later than I was scheduled to because I had dial-bat scheduled to pick me up at 3. So I can't make the extra money because I have dial-bat coming to get me. So essentially, get rid of the call in advance system to adopt the microtransit service. And to that end, we have lost the taxi service that serves Brockton. It does not exist anymore. All that's here is Uber and Lyft. And I've spoken to a different passenger on dial-bat. She's too old, essentially, to use a smartphone. She can call, and that's it. She can't use Uber or Lyft. She doesn't know how. She's not young. And I was talking to her one day. She had a doctor's appointment that dial-bat couldn't get her to because they weren't serving that area of Easton at that time. I told her to take Yellow Cab. I have no idea what happened with that. Maybe she got it. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. But Yellow Cab is gone. She can't use Uber and Lyft. Dial-bat doesn't serve certain areas at certain times. What is she going to do for a doctor's appointment? It's one thing for the Boston hospital service to be scheduled, because that has to be advanced. I get that. You can't have drivers going back and forth between the Brockton area and the Boston area hospitals. I get that. I understand that. We also have the ride that will come here on days that you can't make it to Boston. But hey, it's 9 in the morning. I have no food in my house. I need to go to Walmart. I can't go take the regular bus because there's snow on the ground, whatever the case may be. Especially if you're in a wheelchair. So what, you suffer for the day? That's not fair. We don't have the taxi service anymore. Not everyone trusts Uber or Lyft for various reasons. I'm not even sure if Uber or Lyft will allow wheelchairs. I'm not sure. So hire more drivers. You have experience in the microtransit industry now. Get rid of the archaic call in advance system that worked for the 80s, that worked for the 90s, that doesn't work nowadays. And give the microtransit system to the elderly and disabled paratransit service. Just make it exclusive to the paratransit, to the elderly and disabled. And it's really all I want for that in 2025. It's interesting, and that's why I said at the beginning, I'm not a professional in this, I'm not an expert. Maybe there's a reason why this service still exists the way it does. Maybe there's a reason why they still have the call in advance system beyond lack of drivers, which to that end, hire drivers. Alright. This was short. This was medium in length. This one was very long. That's really it. Amtrak, just make sure you have everything working before you start new services. The T, same thing. BAT and BTA gifts. Try to talk to these regional transit authorities. Try to get merchandise in your store. And Amtrak. Amtrak has their own merchandise. I have an Amtrak hat. But if you are someone who prefers cash, you can't have any of this. So that's where MBTA gifts should come in. And Dial-Bat, just get with the times. I really can't understand why call in advance paratransit services still exist. There's gotta be a reason for it. I just don't know it. But it doesn't make sense to the average person. It's not fair for the elderly and disabled. People with cars can go whenever they want. People who take public transit have to time things, but can still go, in theory, whenever they want. They have a limited window. But the elderly and disabled who exclusively take paratransit have to call a day in advance to go to Walmart to get milk before a snowstorm. That's not fair to them. It's not fair. And I think this has been the most serious / emotional video I have ever done. And that's it for this one.